I could scale it, but 1280 by 720. 1280 by 720 would be no, it should be pixels, yeah. Delete export OBS settings.
Sparks. So do that until you get bored. My favorite touch. Add a little isopropyl to that bitch, because you know this shit smells like fucking.
Anything. Yeah, go ahead and check out the YouTube. You should be able to see it. Yeah, they'd be into owls. My owl. 9933 exclamation point. It gets too big. My camera might be less. I mean, you could do that final stuff with the. When we get it set up. I could make it bigger. Like,
make it like 9 flex?
I mean, I can make it bigger like that. Probably on a delay. I can put it on the corner.
It just looks absolutely tiny. It looks like it's supposed to be.
Can you?
Oh wait.
Yeah, I'm moving.
Oh yeah.
So, can you shorten it so like with that?
Yeah.
Just kind of.
Yeah. And make it, and we can fit in the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Sorry, I'm missing. Yeah. Who needs college? Drop out.
Right. Oh, this might actually be scaling it down. That's probably wrong.
Every Tuesday night, we got a board of chess and she was my partner. So for 5 years, every Tuesday night, we played So when I took this job, I called her.
Alright, saved under B3. File over.
Oh yeah. You see it?
Oh, cool.
Oh wait, did I just get rid of it?
What?
Is it still up or I can go? How can I see it? Yeah, and it was. So I dragged it directly from your USB to the stream. So when I unplugged it, it took it away from the stream.
Make sure you save it.
No, I got it. I got it.
What is this?
It's so when you go and you type in sample video, it's this video with a bunch of different like lengths and like sizes and stuff.
Like animals.
So like the generic sample video. And it's on a loop. I think I could actually stream.
we are actually live streaming right now through the diode. So Nick's our intern for this, one of our interns. We actually held a data diode day. I don't know if any of your students in academia or not, but so we've been trying to forge a relationship with higher ed. So this past March, Nick goes to Sacred Heart University in Connecticut, and we did what we call Data Diode Day, where we had college teams challenge each other to come up with the best use case for a diode. We were going to do a hackathon, but you can't hack diodes, so we thought it'd be a short-lived exercise. So Nick is with us. Nick was on the winning team. So he and we have actually 4 other students that are all interning with us this summer to work on data diodes. So the demonstration he's got. So we've got a camera that's streaming output across this laptop is basically serving as the source side network. Data comes off here, runs through the diode, lands on this side, and then we're actually pushing it out to YouTube. So I don't probably no good. Oh, does this have HDMI on it? What do you have? Do you have YouTube on there?
Do you have Wi-Fi in your laptop?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go to the.
Oh, I could go out to YouTube. Right. What's the URL for the YouTube?
Oh,
You got it?
1 second.
If you just go to the
Oh,
owl,
Owl.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's not what I wanted.
YouTube. That's that first one.
What's that? Here?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. That's the live stream.
So here, if I walk over here, what's it facing?
Just you gotta click it.
Oh, okay.
Click on the. There you go.
Okay. So, all right, so a little bit of delay there through the magic of the internet, but now we probably don't want to hear
Yeah.
the sound. All right, so video through the laptops, across the diode, and out pushing out through the local Wi-Fi to YouTube, and then back down through Wi-Fi to my laptop. Right? So this is just to show that it's easy to configure. It's our intern in a day or two to buy a camera, get it set up, and get it running across. So we're sending UDP across. We can actually do pictures also, just like still shots, and that would be TCP across the diode. So I was just going to, I don't know if is everyone aware of OWL or heard of them before? If not, I can give a quick. I mean, you have obviously. so I'll give you a little bit background on OWL and what we do. So we've been providing data diode technology for 20 years. Primarily we started the U.S. government. So the Intelligence Committee, community that in DoD been using our products for about 20 years now. We have cards that go into servers, so you could if you want really high capacity, if you want physical separation. Then you could put individual cards in individual servers, and you could actually run fiber connected. You can go whatever 2,000 meters, whatever fiber extends. We have appliances, so one new appliances. They basically have the same technology, the same card technology, but in a 1U appliance. And then we have the smaller DIN rail form factors, that one, and Diota. So we've been providing that technology into DoD Intel for a long time, and then we got into critical infrastructure about 10 years ago, mostly around NERC CIP and the requirements for nuclear power companies to protect their plants from external intrusion by using diodes. So diodes absolutely prevent access to a network, and it's really through the physics of on the box. So if you think, some people think about, oh well, firewall is hardware, right? You got this box and I install it. It's hardware in the fact that software runs on a platform, but it's that and actually hardware enforced. And so the difference here, I'm just going to jump over to my slides for a second. This is us, and I'm just going to jump right down to, this is a presentation I did earlier in the day at the Lunch and Learn, but I think really what I want to talk about is the physics of how this works and the difference. So I'm going to start here really. So if you think about the spectrum of cybersecurity, data diodes end up on the far left, being much more secure than firewalls, VLANs, etc. And with the distinction there is that the software is really configuration for. So it's the configuration, it's the software rules you put on a firewall that make it valid. With a diode, it's about the physics on the box at the end of the day. And so because it's the physics of the box, there's little to no ongoing management, whereas a firewall, you have to keep up to date. And tell a story, we had a customer that approached us probably 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago now and said, hey, we had this internal audit and we failed miserably. It wasn't because the technology wasn't any good, it was because the people that they rely on to update the firewalls in the field just didn't do it. They had their primary jobs, and that's what they spent their time on. It was not running around updating literally the thousands of industrial firewalls they have across all their plants. So it wasn't a failure in technology, it was a failure in the human resource assigned to keep it up to date, which you could say is a failure in technology in that the technology makes it difficult to stay current. So with the diode, because of how it's designed, right, here, it prevents you from having to maintain a box. And it sounds kind of goofy, but we really have. I mean, industrial control systems, right? Once you're up and running, it's not like an IT environment you kind of reboot. Right? In an IT environment, if you get a problem and reboot, you don't reboot a generator or a turbine or whatever. So these boxes, the mean time between failure on these is like 15 years. So it's intended to go into industrial control environments. It's intended to run for many, many years, basically without service, without maintenance. And what makes a diode work and how it works is the components. So you've got a transmitting element and you've got a photoreceiver, so an LED basically sending light over a fiber optic cable, and light is representing data. So when the data comes into a source side, there's a proxy that runs. So inside this box, there's 2 proxies, one on either side. Everything is split. There's 2 data ports, there's 2 administrative ports. You have to administer each side separately because if you had a common administrative platform, then you would have then breached both sides. So you have to have independent administration, which means you have independent CPUs in there, you have independent hard drives in there. Everything is completely redundant. And not redundant in the sense that they're backing each other up, but redundant in the fact that they're separate. So data comes in, traffic comes in through your regular NIC interface, right? Just a regular Ethernet interface. And the proxy then terminates that session. Because people think, okay, well, everything is two-way. How does a one-way diode work in this network world where everything is two-way? And really, the basic explanation is traffic comes in, you've got a proxy, the proxy terminates that TCP/IP session, does all your flow control, X on, X off, ACK, NACS, etc. And then the payload is taken from those packets, and then we actually use ATM to push the traffic across the diode. So we're going very short distance, right? A couple of inches. Even on our 1U box, we're maybe going all of 10 inches. So there's no routing that's taking place, right? There's no switching that's occurring inside the box. It's a point-to-point connection. So therefore, it goes very, very fast and very, very low latency. And there's no reason why you'd ever drop packets because there's really just nothing in between to prevent it. So we use ATM. ATM is a asynchronous transfer mode protocol. That's a protocol used by the phone companies, basically to move high bandwidth, low latency voice and data streaming information, right? Designed as a one-way. Of course, you can't do two-way in a phone. That's where you start to get jitter and all that kinds of stuff that gets introduced. So we use that protocol. We have tweaked it a bit to actually optimize it, so it's not pure straight anymore, but it is sort of our flavor of it. Push the data across. When that packet gets across to the other side, we extract it from the ATM cell and then rebuild it as TCP/IP and then send it on its way. So either side of the diode is doing two-way protocol, right? In the middle, you've got a one-way push of data only. So Brian Levinsky is our CTO. We were talking earlier today. There's a documented use case at Black Hat where someone hacked checkpoint firewalls by actually exploiting basically the wrapper, right? The packet, carrying data. So since we take that, we drop the header, all the everything encompassing the payload, drop that out. There's no way you can actually do an exploit around it. So it's one of the layers of, you think about defense in depth, where you do multiple things. That's one of the things that we do in terms of stripping that off, getting the data payload only across, and then rebuilding on site. So therefore, anything you were trying to manipulate, the thing surrounding the payload is now basically killed because of that. The other thing that comes along with that is, or one of the other things is, none of the IP address information is ever exposed to the outside world. So because we're stripping that off, any attacks initiate where someone's trying to ping an IP address or find some kind of open port. None of the information that's inside that ICS environment ever gets exposed, because then, like a firewall, you would open up a port and let packets through. We're just moving the payload as ATM, rebuilding on the other side. So the destination side or receive side doesn't know the source of the information. It's never told that information. The source side doesn't know where the destination is going. So he just knows, I'm going to map this incoming TCP/IP traffic, for example, to a particular ATM channel. On the other side, that ATM channel gets mapped to another TCP/IP session and gets sent along its way. So receive side doesn't know the source side doesn't know the destination. So therefore, if you had malware and you're just trying to phone home, physically impossible, because there's no way, unless you had a conspiracy where someone would go in and configure the box, right, on both sides, and it's another reason we have separation, there's no way for the inside stuff to direct where it wants to go on the outside. So basically, you have malware that basically can't get out there, can't sort of go live because it can't contact sort of its home to do what it needs to do. So there's a lot of things like that built in. We do role-based access controls. We have a hardened Linux operating system running. Everything is separate, like I mentioned. So there's a lot of sort of layers built into the box itself because it is a security device. Beyond the transport layer, so beyond like TCP, UDP, FTP, and that kind of, we also run proxies that will move historians, right? So we have a proxy that would do Wonderware. We would do OSI Sauce Pi. We would support OPC and Modbus and IEC 104 and DNP3, all those kinds of protocols that are higher than that transport layer. So anything at a transport layer just gets supported automatically out of the box. It's like the video camera is just pumping stuff across this UDP right now. But then the application layer is where it gets a little more sophisticated, because you have to think about redundancy and querying and staying current and synchronizing and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little more complex. But all of that runs on whatever box you buy. It's a single box, and it all runs on that one box. Other competitors will have 2 or 3 or 4 boxes to do the same thing that we're running. So everything that's needed is all encompassed. So that's how it works. That's the sort of the crux of the technology itself. We've been doing it for a very long time now, and we just keep driving to smaller and smaller form factors. And Brian's actually heading up a sort of a research project right now where we're looking to do even smaller stuff, like based on FPGAs and stuff, where actually could eventually be embedded into a PLC or embedded into an HVAC system or something like that. So it's no longer an actual outside additional box you have to connect in and plug in. It's actually built into the design and put on the board of the device. Yeah?
Sorry, I might ask you.
No.
No, that's good. So do you have
Yes, that's a great question, right? Yeah, absolutely. So So that box we could support. We could do UDP and TCP and file historian and database replication. We could do all that simultaneously. That doesn't happen on this box. Intentionally, it's designed intentionally to only do one at a time. But yes, all of the boxes from that size on up will all support multiple protocols, multiple flows, all simultaneously. So it varies. So this one is basically capped at 3 meg, and then the card sits all at 10 gig, right? So and we actually have a licensing mechanism. So if you bought that 100D there, it ranges from 5 to 104. But let's say, geez, I'm not sure how much I'm going to need. Maybe I start at 10, and it turns out, now I'm going to need send all my syslog information to, in addition to my historian, and I got some files. Okay, well, I need a little more bandwidth. So you can actually license it and move to 26 or 52 or 104. So it actually allows customers to sort of grow as necessary. So it's a same piece of hardware, but we license it, and then in the pricing corresponds to that. So the lower the bandwidth you need, the lower the. We're trying to help people buy what they need at the price point that makes sense for them. But no, it's a great question because there are, again, competitive products where they'll have 3 or 4 boxes and that's just to do file transfer. Oh, you want to do syslog or email? Oh, it's another 4 boxes. Oh, you want to do something else? Oh, it's another 4 boxes. So you end up with this literally racks full of equipment versus literally one single box. It's a huge difference in the product.
So you guys already have an amazing price point compared to your competitors. Right? And you're trying to push the price point even lower, which I greatly applaud because the price points for the technology is amazing technology, but is still a little high for I think what it is and what it needs to be for greater adoption. So I love the fact you guys are going out with something that's even a lower price point and shooting for even lower options, which is definitely needed in the market, which is a huge advantage for you. So what is your expected MSRP for something like that, knowing that that's not necessarily what they would pay based on your purchase, but just to give us rough ballpark figures.
Right. So this box is being targeted at industrial firewalls. So if you think of like a Tofino firewall, this is.
So we're looking at like entry points around 1,000, maybe sub 1,000 perspectives.
Extreme, not quite there, but in that volume, right? So if you're going to buy 1, you're not going to get it at that price. But if you're going to buy 75, because I got a whole refinery I need to populate or whatever, and that's kind of the. Right now, we do a lot of work in oil and gas. We have a very large customer base in the Middle East, and we're doing a lot of work in Houston right now. And they're coming back and say, we've got 400 of these industrial firewalls at a plant, right? And they would love, and these are the guys that have actually failed some of their audits, right? Where they failed to keep the Tofino firewalls up to date, and they're saying, we need something where we don't have to rely on our human resource people to keep them, because that's not their job. Their job is to make the pipeline work or the refinery work, whatever their job is, right? And that's what they're focused on, and you can't blame them for that. So if they could say, oh my God, you can drop a box in, I never have to touch it again, we want that, right, kind of thing. And but it's got to be the right price point, right? They can't be $20,000 each because that doesn't scale.
Yeah. The fact that you're trying to compete with Tofinos at that level of scale, I mean, that is absolutely amazing in what the industry needs.
Right. And that's a lot of what we're doing in terms of re-education, because people think, oh, diodes, yeah, I get that, but geez, that was like $100,000 each, and it only does this a certain thing, right? So we're trying to sort of break that whole image and come back and say, yep, that was true 10 years ago, right? When it was just the nukes buying them and stuff, but now everybody's buying them, and we've driven the price way down, and that's the other reason why the video I was showing before is the user interface. So this is now a web-based user interface. No more need to go to command lines. All that's all gone with this. You were talking earlier. We have two working prototypes right now, which have been literally around the world. I had one in London with me 2 weeks ago. It's still over there. Went to Croatia. Our other one's been to Houston, California, and just on its way back from Minnesota. We sent one to Schneider Electric, and because they wanted them. So we sent it without a manual, without any kind of tech notes, without anything, just in the box, and my product manager was going to walk him through. And within 20 minutes, Phil had called him. He had already gotten it out of the box, running, passing data, and said, hey, I'm all done with my test. I'm ready to send it back. And he said from opening the box to having it passing data was less than 20 minutes without any, and that's what we're aiming for. We're not aiming for a highly complex product that's hard to use. We want to be exactly that. We want to be able to say to the, totally untrained field tech person out there whose primary job is something completely else, oh, we need to put a diode there, put it in this IP address, select TCP/IP or whatever, boom, and you're done, and it's up and running. So that's what we're trying to get to, just to make it nice and easy.
Tap in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you make a good point, which is we don't think of ourselves in this market anyway as competing with other other diode vendors, right? We are thinking of industrial firewalls, and we're trying to change that paradigm. But fundamentally, as Scott pointed out, the way the system works is different than a firewall, right? It's two independent servers. So what's kind of cool about this side is typically facing the internet, the outside world, right? And so if an attacker were to try to hack the outgoing side of the diode, and we harden this is a SE Linux with very strict policy, and it's got a built-in IP chains firewall on the outgoing side. But we don't call this unhackable. The thing that's unhackable is a connection between the two, right? So if a very clever attacker found a zero-day exploit and we're able to take control of this side of the diode, they still can't get data across to the other side. They still can't reach anything over there. All they can do is find out what's here and find out where data's going, which you see on the network anyway. So you don't learn a whole lot from that. And what's kind of neat about the demo we're showing here, if you switch your screen over to the video, so if you're in security, you're probably familiar with the fact that cheap foreign-made IP cameras are legendary for security vulnerabilities, right? Put these things on your network, and now you've got a vulnerable device sitting on your network. Somebody can root it, and now you've got a rooted device on your network, and they can start to scan around and look for other vulnerabilities and ways to leak to other subnets, right? Well, what we've got here is a cheap foreign-made IP camera, but it's sitting behind a data diode, right? And it's externally facing the internet. It's on YouTube. So because of the diode, right, I have no fear that somebody's going to attack this camera, because the best they can do is reach that external proxy server through YouTube or the local hotel Wi-Fi. They'd have to bridge the air gap inside the diode to get anywhere near the camera. So they're not going to be able to get admin access, they're not going to be able to route the camera, they're not going to be able to use that to exploit any other systems on the local network that it's on. So you can now safely expose a vulnerable device to the internet. We talk to a lot of companies like in the pharma industry where they have older machines that they can't update, they can't patch. They want to get data out of them for process visibility, and this is a solution that they can trust, right? They don't have to patch or update that system anymore. They can let the data go out through the diode and put a otherwise vulnerable system on the internet or a cellular network.
That diode is 1,000 or a couple thousand?
Yeah.
$2,000.
At scale, right, in volume.
Less than 10,
Yeah, which is exponentially better than what it's ever been.
Right.
So if anybody's never explored this space, that's just an absolutely phenomenal price point. So
historically, tens of thousands of dollars. You have a training course. It's archaic to use. It's complex to set up. That's why we're stressing ease of setup. I have a question for you guys. So as Scott pointed out, we're working on some variations of this product, other ways to go to market. We're thinking of ourselves as competing in the firewall market. As IT experts who know firewalls and know security, and can you give us any hints as to how do we market this? How do we tell the market that there's a different paradigm out there that kind of looks and works like a firewall, but it's not a firewall. It's fundamentally different in how it works and what it does inside. How do we get that message across without getting way deep into the weeds of, well, it's optical, and it's proxy servers, and it's all these things?
Well, I mean, I don't really understand all of this stuff, really, but I was just thinking critical infrastructure with the energy grid, and some of the stuff that's been going on recently. You can basically control what's allowed to go there. that would be something that I can see.
Yeah. So and that's a great, you're spot on, because the power generation and T&D markets is huge for us. I mean, that is where we have a lot of customers that are very concerned about that, getting into the grid, because the grid stops and a lot of things stop, right? And that I would say those folks in that industry are absolutely concerned about it, and they're the ones that are sort of, let's say, cutting edge, but they were the ones out there adopting this kind of technology that the fastest.
Well, it just seems like it's the flavor of the day, you know, kind of thing. Oh, it's in Russia. Oh, it's in South America. Oh, it's in.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. Yeah, the grid is it's really important. But there's a that like I said, that part of our customer base is the ones that are the most active, keeping things up to date, finding out what's new, what's going on, looking for new ways to deploy stuff. Absolutely, segmentation. You know, absolutely.
So another question for the group then: if we could package these fundamental capabilities, so a super secure firewall-like function that works reliably, even if you haven't patched it or updated it in many years, we could condense that down to something that was sort of a modular piece. Where would you put it? Where would you want to use that? Where would you say this has got to be in this? Anybody? Suggestions?
You could put it in unclassified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's she's hitting that every conversation we're having. You're hitting the right buttons. The obvious. Right?
Any place else where this might make sense, where you want to use this in networks that you manage or systems that you use? If you say, so if it were PCI based, what would you do? What would you do with that?
Question is on the outside of that feature, which is able to say, we can like go back to a separate file together, so in that kind of situation, like the way
Good examples. Phone home, remote site. So one of the concepts we're working on is bundling one of these or one of those with a cellular modem, where we will pre-test them, pre-configure them, deal with drivers and any other issues you got to worry about, sell you a combination of a diode and a cell modem so that you can plug anything into the send or the source side of the diode, the incoming side, the cell modems on the destination side. It'll be pre-configured to dump data to AWS or Microsoft Azure or whatever platform you want. So now you've got an easy to sort of drop in, install, configure, secure way to get data into the cloud, again, from any machine that might have known vulnerabilities, that may not be properly firewalled up, may not have a DMZ. We can handle all of that because we can guarantee that it's working backwards to our device. So make it easy to get data to the cloud.
So we just talked a couple weeks ago. So here's the use case that's in reality, right? We're approached by a company that does machine building. Their customer built machines that manufacture hinges for cars, and they were told that they were not allowed to deploy that machine into the assembly line, basically, if it wasn't protected. Because if that machine goes down, then the whole line goes down, right? So they were actually connecting it to a cellular modem. It wasn't embedded, but they said, we need something here. Because they're basically using the cellular modem to hop the rest of the network, right? Hop out to the cloud, which is where they push the data. So we were thinking if we can embed potentially, so actually, Nick, you can work with Brian to actually do exactly that, test the whole cellular modem, the power over Ethernet, right? Is how there's a configure, probably the power inside, we can pull an Ethernet, and just maybe embed it in there. So we've got the real world use case, and now how do we apply that in technology? So, we're looking for ideas like that, which people have. We've got a whole advanced development group that's trying to solve those problems. So, we're very eager to hear people's ideas about how to use them and where to use them. And if we make them really small, is it just, RJ45 in and out? Is that make sense, or is there other form factors that make more sense, or whatever? And we still have customers asking about RS-232. We actually support some of that. So because there's old stuff out there in the field, right? So we're very eager to learn and hear about the use cases.
It's a good example of people have a desire to jump across layers of their network, right? If you're familiar with the Purdue model or the Cisco CPWE, the converged plant-wide network model, it's got this very rigid sort of layered structure. You've got to do things in a certain way, and if you want to send data from a machine on your plant to an enterprise level business analytics system, you got to go through multiple layers and multiple hops. It gets very complicated very quickly. We talk to a lot of customers who are like, I just want to get the data there, just please help me. And the other nice thing with the diode is you can safely do that, right? You can safely pull data from a machine, deliver it to an application, and know that the trust are going to come back. So it's sort of a different way of thinking about it, especially when you start to come down in price. You can compare this with a single machine. I think somebody had asked earlier, like, where do we sit in the network? With the previous discussion. Historically, when diodes are big and expensive and complex, you put one in your plant and you sort of hope you never have to buy another one. When they're this small, simple, and cheap, you can put one at every robot or every turbine or every machine, and it just changes that paradigm. Anybody else have a suggestion of where we could go with this, an application, a use case, be it smaller, faster, cheaper? Some people tell us, I want this in my car. I want to have an isolation between the entertainment system and the power constraint in my vehicle. So that's maybe a place to go, right? But guaranteed isolation between those two. Anything else?
Actually, now you mentioned the car thing. Last year, Tesla did a hackathon.
Yeah.
Hack the thing. I was like, maybe if you make a small factor,
Right.
make it where the Tesla can be hacked.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially.
It's like if you're able to hack it, you get a free Tesla out of it.
Yeah, right.
There's a vulnerability behind it, but that would be a great example for a use case. You can somehow make it small enough.
Right.
Plug it in. That would be a perfect thing where Tesla would buy it up in RP.
Make it a USB, a cigarette lighter.
Yeah. Your system is now secure. Plug it in here.
Related to that, to both of those, we have talked in the trucking industry, there's a need to do data logging. If you're a truck driver, you got to log in the hours you drive, almost like airplane pilots have to track how many hours they fly. Well, truck drivers have the same thing. Massive scale, there's a lot of drivers up there. So they make these boxes that plug into the CAN bus on the truck that now are cellular-enabled radios that broadcast your driving hours so they can log it in a cloud-based service. And now you have a threat vector into the truck. Somebody can attack this sort of cheap box I just bought and plugged into my CAN bus. It has access to the braking system, it has access to the power control module. It was never intended to do that, but it can. So we're looking at a sort of low-end CAN bus diode that would say, look, I can push logging data out, but you can't come back in and control things. How vulnerable the truck is.
So are you saying you could put that into the truck?
It would be basically an adapter cable, a special cable that goes from the truck to the modules.
Back to your earlier comment about unclassified networks, we're actually talking to within DoD some of the bases where they have laptops, right? So not maybe going from NIPR to SIPR, but just sort of across, right? But you want to protect them in sort of like an inline thing, exactly like what Brian is describing, for the CAN bus, but maybe just off of my laptop, my PC, to say I can send stuff off of this, but no one can ever get onto this device. So that's sort of we're starting to hear sort of the same things a little bit over and over again. Where some real simple thing. Now you wouldn't support any of the larger application, level things like Pi historians and things like that, but it is really strict. Need to have physical separation. Need to be able to push data across, and then something like that to do it. So there's some other missions we're working on for airborne applications where they need stuff really, really small because of light. Because they want something light and that can be out there. So there's a lot of different sort of paths we're pursuing simultaneously right now in terms of adapting the technology. But we're always looking to see if there's some other way, some other need in the marketplace or stuff. Very different than 4 servers sort of stacked up running stuff. It's very different.
Anybody else have a a suggestion of either an application or a way to pitch this to the world to say, here's an alternative way to check for stuff.
Or
I mean, supply chain stuff. Just,
Yeah.
I guess go supplier and want to control what comes in from them. Sure.
yeah,
A great example. So again, I'll mention pharmaceutical is one that we've been looking at, and there's a requirement called serialization. So when you buy pills, you have to be able to track if somebody dies because of taking Tylenol. You want to know, hey, where did this pill come from? What ingredients did it have? What plant is it packaged in? Which source materials did they use? So that it can go all the way up the value chain. To make that work, they have to work with all their partners to say, okay, here's the batch, the truckload that went from here to there. So that's a great example where you want to share data with your partners, but you don't necessarily want to let them into your network. So a one-way push might be an effective way to do that, or at least reduce some of the anxiety and risk over that partner integration.
usually when they talk about this slide, which is really about, the Department of Homeland Security put out I don't know if you haven't read it, you should, if you're concerned about protecting industrial control systems. But there's a white paper that DHS worked on with FBI and NSA, and they came out with 7 strategies for protecting industrial control systems. And one of the things they say is make things one-way pushes instead of one-way sort of two-way. Instead of someone reaching into a network to grab data and pull it out, push them the data instead. And the example you just gave is exactly some of our customers do that. So we work some technology companies where they have important schematics and things that they need to share with the people that actually manufacture a particular component or a part. They don't want them reaching into their facility to get that, instead they push it. So they added a diode just so they could exchange information with their third parties and know that it was secure, but that their core intellectual property was secure from other people, intentionally, inadvertently, whatever, changing things. We've actually heard that from OT engineers where they're saying like, oh, so if you put this in, no one can come in and touch my equipment. And we're like, yeah, and they're like, oh, that's cool. I like that just for those reasons. So the idea of being able to share that data with third parties or other groups or whatever is definitely a use case for customers using that for sure. Safety systems, that's another one that's become up recently. A lot of requirements around making sure your safety systems are up, they're secure, they're not vulnerable for both compliance and just for the sake of your employees. So
I was wondering, does like FirstNet use something like that with emergency response kind of stuff, because they have the mobile devices and they all have to go to a common. They have to go to a common place to
that's a good. If there's a common distribution point where there's something you need to protect, or you need to, anytime you basically want to protect something but share, right? That's really what this is. This technology allows you to protect and share simultaneously. So any of those scenarios we can think about. Central point. I mentioned earlier at Lunch and Learn today that a lot of people will do is if you have a historian in your OT environment, dump everything into your historian and then just replicate the historian. Right? So that's one point of one data path you have to push out, but you've accumulated your environmental stuff, your performance stuff, production stuff, all that can go into one single place. Replicate that one thing out. We've got, I would say, probably all of our critical infrastructure customers, I bet you close to 85% of them are actually doing exactly that. Put everything into the historian and replicate the historian out. Now they also do syslog and things like that in parallel, but in terms of saying, instead of having a bunch of connections, just have all that information dumped in one place and then replicate out. And it's much easier to support.
And I'll add, with the historian replication, we've gone the next step of trying to help our customers implement that, recognizing the value prop. We've actually implemented API integration to some of the common historian databases so that you don't need any extra hardware. You can drop a diode in, it knows how to talk to the source database, pull the data in, know about all the updates, and replicate them or push them out to the destination. So you don't need to buy an extra server, you don't need to license extra software, you can get everything from us, and we can do that full replication process.
So you're saying your device is actually replacing Pi interface nodes?
We replace a replication server. So
Okay.
we have an API integration with OSI software, so we can talk to a source Pi historian. That's their software, we don't touch that. But if you have the historian already installed, we can pull tags from it and push them to another copy on your other network or in the
Okay.
cloud or at a partner or somewhere else, and do all the backlogging and all the updates, everything you'd expect a replication process to do. And you don't need anything else other than our box, and there's a bunch of software modules you have to load to do that, but it runs on our hardware.
The other sort of answer to that is we do hybrid solutions also. We'll pull OPC traffic in and then push it out into the store, right? So you make, so.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I was saying. Because
yeah.
usually with Pi, you're going to have a Pi interface
Right.
node to do the OPC traffic on one side, which then pushes inside
Right.
of the historian. So in some use cases, you can replace
Exactly.
the Pi interface
Yes,
node.
exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's a hybrid kind of thing. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things like that. I didn't want to go through the slide. I mean, I could. I didn't want to bore anybody with the slides. Just we had done that at lunchtime today, and I know this is supposed to be more hands-on and active. I don't know if people want to see, up close the diode running. We also have.
Or if you want to build a diode, you can build your own
right.
data diode.
So we've also over here. We've actually had contracted for us data diode Lego sets. So we've been challenging people to see how fast they can complete a diode. So if anybody wants to take a shot at it, you can actually win one if you want to take a shot at building your own diode. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes. If anyone's up for a challenge, and then you can take one home and give it to your kids or put it in your desk, whatever you want to do with it.
I'll try it and proceed.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. So who wants to give it a shot? You want to timer Aileen? See how
Yeah.
fast you can do it.
Does anyone want to challenge her?
Well,
Anybody-
I have no
Anybody
idea
else?
what I'm doing.
There you go.
Well, see, that's the whole point, right?
Okay, now you have a challenge. You just have to
Come
stop
on.
and wait for the challenge.
Come on, guys. Everyone's gotta give it a try. We would
Yeah.
challenge you, but we know
Who
the
else?
order already.
Yeah.
Takes the challenge.
Take the diode challenge.
Sure.
Go for it.
Anyone else?
Oh, the challenge was opening up this bag.
Don't start yet.
Oh, okay. I was just trying to see
Oh,
if I
you're
had to rip it
prepared.
open.
Yeah, you can prepare your materials if you'd like ahead of
Yeah.
time.
I gotta get my stopwatch.
Left your Apple Watch behind us. And the other, did everyone get an IOU card by any chance? Did you hand these out, Aileen? Or?
Yeah, they were up there.
Yeah.
when everyone-
So and if you didn't grab we have materials up here, notebooks, pens, IOUs. So if you would like to get the diode, a working one, test it at your facility free of charge, just Aileen's contact information is on the back. As soon as we get our production run, which we're hoping, I'm hoping is by the end of this week, you can then start to circulate. We like literally we have 2 that they're working out. We've been circulating them with a number of different customers, both domestically and internationally. So if you have any interest in testing one out in the lab for 3 or 4 days and then sending it back, we'll come with a return shipping label. So if you are interested, just let us know, and we'll definitely send that for you to use.
Alright, I'm gonna start the.
You ready? Okay. All right. Challenge.
Yep.
Go ahead. Go.
And we'll still answer questions if you have
Yeah.
questions while you're
Clearly.
While everybody's doing the challenge, I figured I'd come up, actually, let me get out of that.
Out of the bright light.
So, I want to understand deeper level.